Hello everybody, it's Wyvern here with another Total War Warhammer 2 Community Cast. This time around, a battle submitted to me by Lord of Chords featuring the forces of the Vampire Coast against the forces of the Dark Elves. Squaring off against one another on a Stallion Tomb, no doubt both forces looking to sneak away with some booty. Unfortunately, ran atop each other, and now only one will manage to skulk away with their ill-gotten goods. And both builds here looking to square off and slug it out immediately because the Dark Elves have managed to surround and isolate the Vampire Coast, and there's no retreat for them here. They need to stand and fight. So, going over the builds, we do have Luther Harkon coming in for the Vampire Coast leadership. He's got his full kit coming in with Power Siphon for that great Vigor debuff. He's got the Salon Gold. This is something you don't see very often because it's just so expensive, but reduces enemy winds of magic recharge. Very powerful that way. Hornswaggle, excellent to make an already crazy duelist even better, or otherwise to help the Necrofex and Vampire Fleet Captain fight a little better. Of course, you get Death Shriek on top of the Terrorgeist. Nice little buffer here with Magical Void, gets you some magic resist if your opponent tries Lord Sniping. And of course, well, it's Luther Harkon, so he is an absolute beast in melee. He can actually at range 2 can chip your opponent down over time, otherwise apply that fear, terror, poison, and of course he does disrupt when firing. So big debuffs there. Alongside him, there is a Vampire Fleet Captain of Lore Vampires. She is coming pretty stripped down as far as magic goes, though atop of Promethean, getting her some extra mass and combat prowess. But she does have Taunt, great debuff once again, can really help single out a specific target, make it much weaker. Invocation Deck as well as summons, the usual sort of choices to act as protection for your backline and to help keep key units in the fight. Power Stone for extra winds of magic, and the Hunger as well as the Curse of Undeath for self-healing, as well as to heal all your units map-wide. Besides that, the front line is incredibly limited, a mix of Zombie Pirate Deckhands and Zombie Pirate Deckhand Polearms. Very, very small front line here, and I think a little bit of a mistake because the amount of Dark Elf the amount of harass Dark Elves can normally bring can be a massive problem. It can really swamp you. So we will see how Lord of Chords is able to hold up here. The Zombie Pirate Gunnery Mob is going to provide a little bit of a buffer here for the guns, but weirdly enough chose to put the black spot in the center. I think they would be better out on this flank as a buffer for the two normal handgun mobs, because these are really your key damage dealers that can't protect themselves. But hopefully this does pan out well. There are some additional support tools in the back. We do have the Night Terrors, Regiment of Renowned Morngulls. Of course, these guys rampage, but have much higher weapon stats, as well as terror, which Morngulls don't have anymore nowadays. A Necrofex Colossus providing overwatch from on high, and we do have two Fellbats can potentially disrupt and harass enemy skirmishers. Now, for the Dark Elf line, we are going to see a very, very wide formation already. Necrofex teeing off on these poor Dark Riders there. But it is a mix of Dread Spears as well as Witch Elves. A very odd choice in my opinion, but perhaps the idea here is to draw away zombies. The Witch Elves will mince through zombies very quickly, and they are able to prevent zombies from repositioning because they can rampage them very easily, and of course Undead don't rout, so they'll just stick around. They'll never be, once they stuck in with the Witch Elves, they can't really run away. And if these ladies get into the back line, they are also just a monster against units like Zombie Pirate Gunnery Mobs. Besides that, we do have a single unit of Shades. Usually you see more of these guys, but they are very potent against Coast. They can gun down basically all Coast units very effectively. Hold up well in melee against units like Hounds or Scurvy Dogs or Bats, and even zombies they can clean up in late game. So you can avoid dealing with zombies until the very end and then just mop them up in close quarters. And of course with Stalk, they're very resilient against the Vampire Coast's own artillery play. A bunch of Dark Riders scattered all around the map, looking to get a quick rush in. Malekith surprisingly coming in on a cold one. Now you do see, to be fair, you do see Malekith on a cold one a decent amount of the time, but he is actually coming in without Soul Stealer, which I think is a bit of a mistake. Definitely an interesting build, or an interesting choice, I should say. Malekith's a popular choice, but coming in without Soul Stealer, I think, is a huge, huge risk, since he won't be able to recover his HP. He does, however, gaze Malice, very powerful against tightly packed, squishy infantry. We do have Stand Your Ground to keep him in the fight and nearby troops in the fight. Blade Wind, probably hoping for some clumps that you can nuke. Word of Pain, very good in this one-on-one duel situation. Chill Wind, decent against formations, can help slow troops, prevent them from escaping, and Spiteful Conjuration, debuffing armor. Finally, a whole bunch of Dark Riders and Harpies who are already closing in from all sides. We can see the Necrofex here teeing off on the Dark Riders, mowing them down. Harpies taking some nasty volleys from those guns as the Dark Riders simply pile on forward, diving into the Zombie Pirate Deckhands. and doing some good work. Bats are not going to last long up in the sky against Harpies. Harpies are just way above their league, and they'll get minced apart very quickly. That said, Luther here does rout these bats off, and things are definitely already going quite bloody. We are seeing the zombie pirate gunnery mob coming under some fire over here. The Harpies diving in on the black spot over there. And these bats doing nothing. They're kind of loitering around. Same with the vampire fleet captain, just kind of sitting. Most likely because more of the micros being focused on this front line. Now, the Dark Riders here already sneaking through. We do see that downside of that very narrow front line as it's just compromised. It's not able to hold up. The gunnery mob here is going to continue firing, is whittling down those very annoying witch elves. But the Dark Riders have done quite a lot of damage already, shaving off about 25% of the models, on actually exactly 25% right now of the models on this unit. And right now, most of the backline is compromised. The pirate gunnery mob is dead. The zombie pirate deckhands here are dead. Basically, everything for the Vampire Coast is dead, and things are definitely not looking too hot. Luther Harkon kind of wasting his time here chasing after these Dark Riders, but big misplay on the Dark Elf player's side. Well, certainly, he has succeeded very effectively in compromising that backline, overwhelming things. Night Terror's only now committing to this frontline fight. There is, or hasn't really been any focus on trying to focus down Luther or the Necro effects. A lot of the Dark Riders are way out of position. Some of them all the way over there. Two of the crossbow Dark Riders all the way out here, which is just a massive misplay. Right now, they could be whittling down the Captain and the Necrofex Colossus, or even Luther, and that would be helping just seal this game. But as it stands, it is giving an opportunity for the Vampire Coast to get back into this one. Over here, Malekith does get breath, but he kind of tanks it like a champ and just stays in there. But he's getting shot with the pistol. Keep in mind, the pistol does mitigate his physical resistance a bit. The Power Siphon going down there as well. Slan Gold denying him with some magic, so it's good debuffs there. Fortunately, Black Spot is gone, and well, really, most of the Vampire Coast infantry at this point is gone. We actually see Balance of Power favorable, but with basically all the troops actually almost gone, it's going to be a tough one for the Vampire Coast to scrape out here. Obviously, Luther's a massive benefit to the balance of power here, but definitely going to be a tough one here for the Vampire Coast to scrape out of. The Night Terrors here rampaging, running amok amidst the Witch Elves, getting shot to bits. Over here, the Zombie Pirate Gunnery Mob getting torn apart as well. Right now, I think the Dark Elf player should try to collapse here on these Night Terrors, mop up these pockets of resistance, and get these Dark Riders back online. Get them shooting, have them focus a single target down. And this is another big misplay. We do see the Necrofex there get a beautiful shot, collapsing the leadership on these Dark Riders. But there is no focus fire from the Dark Elves. We do see that the Malekith here drops Word of Pain on Luther, is going to snare him. He pops Steady Your Ground. So he's going to be very tough to kill right now. But where is the focus? The Dark Elves player right now could be trying to mow down Luther if he had all his Dark Riders focused on one target, or annihilate the Necrofex Colossus, focus out the Vampire Fleet Captain. That is what these Dark Riders need to be doing. They need to be focusing fire, and they are not doing that. Instead, their fire's all over the place, and they are not focusing anything down. In the meantime, the Night Terrors here surprisingly sticking around. The Shades kind of falling back, which not a bad idea. Really, these Witch Elves should just deal with these deckhands. They could clean them up in basically one charge, I think. But in my opinion, Dark Elf players should be trying to pile in here with a spear. Just shut those guys down, deal with them quickly. And instead, a bit of a slip up here on the infantry micro as well. That said, Luther is taking some missile fire. Finally, it isn't necessarily the most precise missile fires for sure, but he is finally getting chipped down. Dark Riders are in there as well, providing support. Malekith staying in the fight with Hornswaggle active, a big misplay. Spears fortunately will help him escape here, extricate himself, but definitely a huge misplay there for the Dark Elf. So where the infantry play and the early surround play was excellent, now we're definitely seeing a bit of a struggle going down. Another debuff going down on Malekith. Not entirely sure what it is. Taunt. Perhaps hoping to catch him. I don't know. Perhaps it was queued up already. I do think this is a bit wasted. Over here we do see the Necrofex and the Vampire Fleet Captain just kind of beating down on these Harpies. I'm not entirely sure what these Dark Riders are shooting at, because, well, the shots are completely overshooting. I feel like they're shooting at the zombies. You really want to be shooting this Vampire Fleet Captain. Get her dead, or get the Necrofex dead. Get any unit dead, but focus a single target down. Now Luther here is finally suffering. He actually gets snared here, so big, I think, underestimation here of the Witch Elves, just not getting out of here. The Vampire Coast really need to pack the heck away and leave before they got here, but now he's snared. He's getting torn apart by that Dark Shard Fire. The Spears are going to do good amounts of damage. Invocation of the Neck does go down. Vampire Fleet Captain coming in clutch. But, you know, Luther's not in too hot of a spot. And if he stays snared here for long, If the spears continue doing great damage, and we actually see Harpies diving in, getting greater surround there, he could potentially go down. Or certainly just take so much damage that it'll be very hard to bounce back from that. Malekith does retreat to the map's peripheries, looking to stay alive there. And once again, we're seeing a bit of a slip-up of Micro. Now the Dark Riders are focusing on the Necrofex. For a while there, they were focusing on the Vampire Fleet Captain or the zombies at his feet. Now the fire shifts to the Necrofex. This sort of splitting of shooting that's been going on the entire game is really a killer. In my opinion, definitely significantly hurting the Dark Elf player. Now, we do see that the infantry here is getting cleaned up. The Vampire Coast is starting to run out of steam, but Bounce Power is very much in their favor, most likely because Malekith at this point is dead. And to be fair, the Night Terrors have actually recovered pretty nicely. But once again, Shades just sitting around there. Definitely the focus most likely for both players at this point was on this fight here. But leaving your units all the way out there, bit of a misplay. We do see the Night Terrors as well as the Shades just loitering around. They could be in the fight here. Both could be making a huge difference for their respective factions. So you don't really want that situation happening. Luther is getting torn apart. For some ungodly reason, these Dark Riders diving into melee against Necrofex, you definitely don't want that. And I think that at this point, the balance power is swinging so heavily out of the Dark Elf's favor that it's going to be a Vampire Coast win. A few more shots being popped here by the Dark Riders. They run out of ammo. Look at this other unit. Dark Riders with Peter Crossbows. These guys need to be in here. They need to be right here. Gunning down. And another thing I should advise, actually, if you're using a missile unit and your opponent is surrounded like this and they are not able to escape you, they're not able to clear, you can pull much closer with your guns, with your missiles, whatever, and gun them down at point blank. You will get them. Your accuracy will be much better. You will get much more consistent results. And I think that's... You're kind of squandering potential damage that way. But regardless, we're going to see the Dark Elf Infantry routing here. Necrofex Colossus on the verge of death here. Word of Pain going down. Obviously, the Dark Elf player does not want to risk a overcast here because that would nearly kill, I think. If not outright kill. It would be close to kill Malekith, which you don't want, obviously. But another breath attack does go down. Actually whiffs quite heavily. Malekith only takes about 100 damage, but at this stage, there's nothing that's going to be able to overcome this Necrofex and Luther. Luther still does have almost 2,000 damage. He's very beat up. There are still these Shades coming back. There are still a handful of scattered troops, but with Terror kicking in, with Malekith routed off the field, it is going to be, I believe, a GG. Now, for the Vampire Coast. The Necrofex here, 156 kills. Holy heck. Still very much around kicking, albeit out of ammo. Night Terrors here, chasing after the poor Shades. Just look at these angry boys, just leaping along on their two arms. Such a hideous unit, but they are pretty cool. And will they catch these Shades before the game ends? I want to see them fight. No. Oh well, it's okay. So Pyrrhic victory for the Coast. Now, I think that there were some significant misplays on both sides. And I think that the Dark Elf player actually could have sealed the deal on this match very early in the game. And failed to do so and essentially allowed Lord of Course to get back into the fight. Now, going over the comps first. Lord of Course comp, I think, has a few issues here. The most significant really being the lack of coverage. You don't have width. You've only got 3 polearms and normal zombies. It's very tough to defend. Zombies are slow. You only have 1 summon. So trying to provide this much coverage around your entire army gets very, very difficult. In my opinion, you could potentially cut... I'd consider, because you do have Luther for the Terror, you do have the Necrofex for the Terror. I would consider cutting the Night Terrors here. Free up some money for an additional 3 or 4 units of zombies. Because you can. The zombies are fairly cheap. They're 300 a pop. You could get more units of zombies. And it will give you much wider coverage. It allows your guns to stay online much longer. I do get that the Night Terrors kind of helped you bounce back here. But I think if the Dark Elf player had been more on top of his focus fire, that would not have happened. And so I do think getting that extra width from the zombies would be very beneficial. And then your guns can stay online. They can mow down the Witch Elves. Whatever the need may be. And it just buys you more time. It helps you stall against the Dark Riders. Or otherwise, another option you do have is to bring some Scurvy Dogs. Scurvy Dogs, not a great defensive. You could, for example, cut these deckhand mobs. You can get 4 normal zombies for the price of these deckhand mobs. And so that gives, with polearms, you can get an extra unit there. And then you could cut these Night Terrors and replace them with, say, another unit of deckhands with pistols, and then, say, 2 Scurvy Dogs. And that gives you some more width. The Scurvy Dogs are actually not bad against Dark Riders, because the Dark Riders will normally try to commit against your guns. So then the Scurvy Dogs get a rear charge, they get a cheeky flank attack. And you can remove units like Dark Riders or Harpies relatively quickly that way. I do understand the use of bats here. I think that's not a bad idea just to support Luther. Though if you're going to fight on top of your gun line, you don't necessarily need bats either. You could, once again, you can make cuts and just rework what units you bring. Honestly, yeah, if you cut like the bats, you cut the Night Terrors, maybe cut Slon Gold, I think you could then get another like 4 Scurvy Dogs and 2 units, I think, of zombies additionally, and then rework these zombies to be normal zombies. So that would give you much more width, and that's what I'm trying to focus on here. I actually don't think Matteo's army here is too bad. The cheeky Witch Elf play is interesting. It's something I don't see very often in this matchup, but at the same time, I do think the Witch Elves performed pretty well. If I were to give a critique, it's really not bringing Soul Stealer for Malekith, and I think an extra unit of Shades. Trying to shoehorn an extra unit of Shades in here would have been nice. Not entirely sure how I'd cut things. If you cut down some of the magic, if you get Soul Stealer, and let's say get rid of Chill Wind on Malekith, and I'm trying to think what spells you could probably. It would be tough to make some cuts there, budget cuts there. But maybe, you know what? Maybe if you cut like Witch Elves and a unit of Dark Riders with repeater crossbows, get a unit of Shades and Dread Spears on the field, I think that would put you in a slightly better position. However, by far, I think the biggest problem here with for the Dark Elves was just misplays. Initially, the surround was gorgeous. It was full encirclement of the Vampire Coast. The Vampire Coast front line did not hold at all. It collapsed in the space of like 10 seconds. The back line was compromised and annihilated very, very quickly, which was gorgeous. It was very, very well done surround and crushing of basically all the infantry force the Vampire Coast had. But then there was no focus fire. There was no follow-up. The Dark Riders were shooting all over the place. Some were shooting at the Necrofex, some were shooting at the Vampire Fleet Captain, some were shooting at Luther. The Shades were haphazardly shooting at the Night Terrors, but they were loitering around. The Malekith decided to duel Luther 1v1, which is definitely not what you want, especially not when you're on a cold one rather than a dragon. And from there, the battle just fell apart. I think better focus fire and better micro, I should say, or better micro and bring units back into the fight and not leaving them loitering on the edge of the map would have been an absolute game changer here, because it was a very close match, and I think the Dark Elves could have sealed it very quickly after they annihilated this Vampire Coast infantry blob early on. But those are my 2 cents there. I do think that it was good how Lord of the Courts sort of kept things together, got some summons on the field, didn't sort of panic and tried to focus out on the key targets, kept his Necrofex alive, which I think was important. Letting the Necrofex expend all its ammo was excellent. Letting Luther expend essentially all of his ammo, and except for the moment where he was snared, that was a bit of a misplay, I think. But letting Luther get on top of Malekith and sort of doing the plays that you needed to bounce back from what was a very dire situation early on, I think, was good. But really, that's my main critique there, was I think the build more so for Lord of Chords here, and the actual play for Matteo, I think, was a little bit worse. But regardless, that's my 2 cents there. If you guys do enjoy these sorts of replays where I cast and review and critique, it's really up to you guys. You can submit your community casts or your replays to wyverngaming replays at gmail.com. If you have your own comments, critiques, questions, all that stuff, don't hesitate to post them down below. I will do my best to respond as soon as I can. A massive thank you to Lord of Chords here for the submission. I do appreciate the gameplay. It's always fun to watch, always fun to see what different people do and what units they bring and what works and what doesn't. So I do appreciate it. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you all in the next one. Wyvern out.